It's so good to be here with you. Good morning. Yes. Yeah, that's the issue. And yeah, this is kind of taking up all the air here in Washington. People are talking about it. And really, if they don't end up coming to a deal, and when I say they, I'm talking about President Biden and the Democrats, and of course, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans, if they don't reach a deal by June 1st, that's the date that could end up triggering a default. That basically means that we don't pay our debt, kind of like if I don't pay my credit card bills, I'm in trouble. But this is the country we're idea what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day. Just when you think you have it figured out, nah, they throw you a curveball. So we'll be on this the whole time. I'm so glad you asked. I could talk about this all day. So, Local News Live is a 24/7 streaming digital channel. We are bringing you all the latest headlines from your top national headlines. Oh, Leanna, it's been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, I love you, Rono. Take a picture. Please take a picture and then tweet me or Instagram me or something because I have such love for you guys. Really, I do. You're my coworkers. You too. Bye. Boom. Thank you. I like your voice in my ear, Ariel. You're very calming. Hmm. You should do radio. It's like, hello, everyone. Or a podcast, I'm telling you. Okay, 11:13. Okay. Hello?
Hear her. Debra, can you hear me? Oh, sorry. I can hear Debra. Are you trying to call the IFB line?
Yeah, we're trying to call the IFB line.
Okay, let me give you that one. I think they might have given you the wrong one because this is my cell phone. No, it's okay. Okay, it's 706-250-9022. Yep. All right, thanks. No problem. Hey, Debra, can you hear me?
I got you.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yay. You got it.
All right, so I'm going to have our digital team send out a quick push, let them know we're live, and then we will be good to go.
Awesome, I'm here.
All right, so he's getting that going, and then we'll get started. Appreciate you doing this.
Oh, I'm so happy to be doing it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad we were able to make it work. Okay, and we are rolling here now, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Hey folks, good morning. Welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, about 11:15 here on our Wednesday, and we are joined by a very special guest today coming to us from Washington, D.C. So as you know, WRDW is always on your side with our website and our WRDW streaming app, but even when we're not on the air, Local News Live has you covered, and that is why we have Debra joining us today, bringing you big stories and breaking news as it happens. So LNL lead anchor and WRDW national correspondent Debra Alfarone is here with us. Debra, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled I could be talking to you and everyone who's watching.
Absolutely, and so let's jump right into it. We've got a very, very big story in Washington, D.C. right now. We're talking about the debt ceiling that we have and the two sides trying to come to an agreement before the deadline comes up at the end of the month. So what happens if they aren't able to come to an agreement on the debt ceiling?
I mean, it would be historic. It really would be. This has never happened before. That we would not be able to pay our debts on time, and so it might trigger a financial catastrophe. And that's, of course, according to the Treasury Secretary. So we do not want this to happen. Nobody wants this to happen, and both sides have kind of been far apart, but it seems that they're getting closer and closer, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has even used the word possible, which is a big departure because it seemed like both sides were so far apart. But he did use the word possible, and he's even pushing for a quicker deal. Obviously, there will have to be some negotiations and some compromises. That's the only way anything will get done. But then, let's say they have this negotiation and they come up with whatever it is they want to come up with. Well, then it has 15 days to get passed through Congress. So, well, I'd like to say, oh yeah, sure, they might be able to come up with this by the end of the week, which is what they're hoping for. It still has to go through Congress. So we're just going to have to keep reporting on it every day. Every day there's a new detail and a new development. So the latest is that President Biden is cutting his trip to the G7 summit short to make sure that he's back by Sunday. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and hopefully they are able to get something done. And as we know, it could seem like it's stuck in the mud, and then all of a sudden things move pretty quickly to get done. Debra, a lot of our viewers may remember you from our newscast during the CBS days. You've been at Local News Live now for a couple of months. What's the work that you guys are doing over there, and what makes Local News Live so different and so special?
Thank you so much for asking. So I loved my time at CBS, but I could not pass up the opportunity to be here, to be part of this relaunch of Local News Live. I'm a local news girl. Like, I have been working in local news for a long time, and nobody knows your backyard, your hometown, your neighborhood like a local news reporter. And I've worked at network, and everybody who covers a specific area knows it so well. So when there's breaking news, you know what it really means. You know who it means something to, but also those incredible personal, like, feature stories about someone doing something incredible for their community. That's the power of the local journalist. So here, I'm taking my national background to be the lead anchor here and bring you those headlines, kind of break down the debt ceiling, tell you what's going on across the country. But also, we invite those local reporters who know it so well. Like, for example, we had you guys talking to us about the Masters. And so you would come on every day and talk to us about that. I mean, I can stand here and talk about it, but what do I know? You know it so well. And so we've got the national headlines, and then we've got the power of local journalism. And it's not just your station. You know, we have 113 plus stations across the country. So odds are when there's breaking news, we're going to have someone who knows it pretty well. And that's what Local News Live is. It is incredible, and it's unique.
Yeah, had a blast doing those hits every morning from Augusta National, talking to Troy and Ryan, just being out there and kind of getting that experience with them. And, you know, just it's fun to kind of just sit here and chat. But obviously it's more than just chatting, because you guys do bring on, we saw Lindsey Graham there in the video that we just showed. I saw Marianne Williamson was just on not too long ago. So it's more than just sitting here and talking. It's really big name people coming on and good journalism that you guys are doing as well. So Debra, where can we tune into Local News Live?
First of all, thank you so much for that compliment. We work hard here to get those big name guests and really hold them to account and ask them the questions that we know that our viewers want to have them asked. So there's that. Thank you. And you can always watch us on your app and your website. When your newscast is over, well, that's when we come on. And we're a 24/7 station, so we're always on. Not me personally. I get to go home and go to sleep at some point today.
Yeah, that's always good. Yeah, I get done about 12:30, yeah. So I'm the same way. The show runs without us.
There you go.
We take a little break. So, Debra, we appreciate the time so much. I know you've got plenty of other stations to talk to today to get the word out about Local News Live and the great work you guys are doing. So we'll let you go, but just wanted to say thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. I want
Absolutely.
you back on Local News Live, okay?
Absolutely. And I think you've been on our morning mix show before, talking to Cliff and Zaina and talking about the podcast that you've got going and everything like that. So a lot of big things coming from you towards our station. So we appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Debra. You too. Debra Alfarone, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from Washington, D.C. We appreciate the time with her again, and I'm sure we will be hearing from her hopefully sooner rather than later. They do great work over there at Local News Live. But again, we'll go ahead and continue on with some more top headlines, some of our big stories that we've been working on for the past day or so. I want to start off with a shooting from yesterday. Columbia County man recovering at the hospital after deputies say his stepdaughter shot him in the garage. It happened on Grove Landing Way in Grovetown. And after the shooting, deputies say his stepdaughter, Tasha Lawrence, did turn herself in. Our Nick Veland was following that story, so we'll play the story that Nick did yesterday. And then he talked to a neighbor out there who heard some things, saw some things. So we'll play the interview with the neighbor after that.
So normally the only complaint in this neighborhood is about parking on the street. But today at 1:30, gunshots rang, shattering the silence for the first time anyone can remember.
The boom, and I was like, what was that?
Seconds passed, and again.
I hear two more boom, boom.
She saw what followed.
And I see the woman walking out with something in her hand, getting in her car and driving away.
And heard
moans coming from the garage. Oh, you know, you hear that, and it was scary.
Tasha Lawrence says that she went to the address to bring her mom flowers for Mother's Day, but her mom never got them. She had an ongoing dispute with her stepdad. At some point, things turned violent. An incident report says that she went back to her car, got her gun, and shot him.
Had those flowers in her hands. It's a little bouquet of flowers right there. And she dropped those and she just walked. I mean, she was angry. She looked angry, just got in the car, drove right away.
The flowers still there, along with the shockwave still echoing through the neighborhood.
I was actually on hold with a company at the time when I got a phone call from my neighbor panicking.
Jenny immediately rushed to her front porch
And was looking and seeing what was going on. I did see a gentleman in the garage on the floor with blood.
The neighbors tell me that this family just moved in 2 months ago, so they've only had a few interactions, and they've all been positive.
He's in his garage a lot, just likes to, watch the cars go by, wave at the kids and wave at everybody as they go by, and just a very sweet man.
He was rushed to the hospital for treatment.
But he was talking, he was moving around, so I hope he's going to be okay.
And Tasha Lawrence is charged with aggravated assault and possession of a firearm, and she's in the Columbia County Detention Center tonight, and we're still trying to figure out what the motive is.
Okay, so like I said, we are going to play the full interview from that. But real quick, before I do, wanted to show you guys how to watch local news live. I know Deborah and I had kind of talked about it there, but let's go ahead and pull up the website right here. And if you go to this Watch Live, this first little tab right here, you'll see WRDW News 12. That's where all of our stuff's going to be. So if you're watching our newscast, that's going to be on there. If we're live on the OT or on the News 12 Now desk, that's going to be up there as well. And then if neither of those are happening, so if we're not in a newscast and I'm not up here on the News 12 Now desk, that's when Local News Live is going to be running there. You see, this is the story that we just showed you that Nick was doing. It's on about a minute delay. So that's how you can watch Local News Live and catch up with Deborah and all the work that team is doing. And they do really good stuff over there. Like I said, you saw Lindsey Graham was in that little video, Marianne Williamson, Asa Hutchinson. They have big name people coming on there. This is not just, podcast, talk show, back and forth type stuff. It's real journalism they're doing over there. So it's good work. Okay, now we'll play the full sound from the neighbor that Nick talked to about that shooting yesterday.
Talk to me a little bit about, obviously, first of all, how long have you lived in this neighborhood for?
I've lived here 4 years.
Okay, and in that time, you haven't experienced anything like this before?
Oh, no, ma'am.
So,
the biggest complaint is parking on the street.
and kind of like day to day, besides obviously today, what's kind of, the day-to-day routine? What do you kind of normally hear in this neighborhood?
Dogs and people walking and several buses coming up and down the street and people going to work.
Is it a pretty new neighborhood? I know.
The neighborhood's a little older. Each section is a little newer.
Okay, and so, describe that neighbor dynamic. Do you guys pretty much talk to one another? I know there's a school bus here, so there's obviously kids on this street, so
right.
Kind of describe that.
Well, my husband and I personally, we speak to about 4 people within our home and across the street, next door, that kind of thing. And then occasionally somebody up the street at the mailbox or something.
I'm just going to wait for this school bus cars to come over.
That this incident happened, what was your initial reaction, and what do you think to do in that moment?
I was actually on hold with a company at the time when I got a phone call from my neighbor panicking, and I didn't take the call, so I felt bad when she called the second time and told me what was going on. So then I ran to the door and was looking and seeing what was going on. I did see a gentleman in the garage on the floor with blood. By then, Grovetown was already here. It was swarming. So they reacted very quickly, and that was kind of all I saw.
And kind of just, this day in general, just kind of, what were you hearing after that phone call?
After that, there were several landscapers in the area, so everybody kind of congregated in my yard and, just kind of checking out what was going on and just kind of drinking Gatorade and wondering what was happening.
And lastly, for me, did you see? Was kind of everyone out of their house? You said that some people had, ended up leaving, and so was that that was clearly their reaction was to just head out.
Well, there was the woman who left afterwards, and then the neighbors came out, and a couple of people actually had a statement to give to the sheriff's deputies. So they did that, and I stayed put, you know, on my porch. I didn't have anywhere to go, but several people were already at work and coming home, and so they were checking to see if there were cameras that may have caught something and that kind of thing. And then they took the gentleman off in the ambulance, and things just settled down.
And, you know, have you ever met them before?
They are actually new to the neighborhood. They've been here about a month and a half or 2 months, and typically we would have met them, but we've got a lot going on here recently, and so we just haven't.
Do you know if they like live together, the mother or the father and the daughter?
It appeared that it was multi-generational living in the home.
Okay. And was it just the two of them, or just?
It was an extended family. You know, there's a little baby that lives there. There's mom. There's grandpa. There's a couple other people, I believe, but I can't say for sure.
Gotcha. And then just overall, you know, this experience today, unlike any other in this neighborhood, just kind of talk on, you know, just kind of what's been going through your head ever since everything's kind of been going on.
Well, when it happened, I was in the back of the house, and I have a storm door. So I had it open, I had it locked, but I had the actual door open. And so after that, I was like, maybe I better shut the door and lock the door if I'm going to be in the back of the house. And so I talked with my husband. He's like, stay inside, you know, and all. So, you know, a little bit of uneasiness. So.
And then lastly, I mean, now that it's kind of calmed down and you have time to like think about the situation, do you feel like, you know, I wouldn't say scared to live here, but do you feel more alert or more aware about things like this?
I'll definitely have to be more alert. Concerned, no, but definitely keep my eyes and ears peeled. So.
Well, that's all for me.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So there you go, hearing from a neighbor witness who saw and heard that scene unfold yesterday in Grove Landing in Grovetown. Again, a stepdaughter shooting her stepfather after a parent argument. Sounds like the daughter was trying to bring her mom flowers for Mother's Day, and she and the stepfather argued. She went back to the car, got a gun, and that's when she shot him. So we'll see what else comes out of that, but seems pretty cut and dry. We'll talk about one more story here before we let you go for our midday newscast, and that's about this Asher program from City Commission yesterday. City leaders wasted no time approving new security plans that have been in the works for years to better prepare for active shooter situations. This new program recommends training to departments across the city. The Asher program stands for the Active Shooter Event Response Program. It's already used statewide in Massachusetts, but we'd be the first to test it out in Georgia. Our Craig Allison tells us more about the program. Again, we'll play the story and then come back and we'll play the full interviews that he did. And then that'll pretty much be it for the morning here.
Life-saving system powered through community coordination.
If everybody's operating off a different standard, while all of the different standards have good intention, all of the good intentions in the world don't lead to all of those things on scene of a hostile event. That interoperability and that the quick transition from response to recovery.
The Asher plan for Augusta, originally conceived in 2019, had to be put on hold when COVID hit. 60 subject matter experts across the nation created the plan that will soon be put to the test here at AU.
In the ensuing months, you'll see more and more of that where agencies, law enforcement agencies, fire agencies, EMS, the private sector, the academia, healthcare, everybody working together using NFPA 3000 to bring #StrongAugusta to life.
All the agencies, if you will, came together. They looked at historical active shooter hostile events, and they came up with a plan, but to prepare, a plan to respond, and a plan to recover from.
They'll also push the #StrongAugusta campaign, reaching out to nearby companies and Fort Gordon for more active shooter training for civilians, creating a community-wide proactive plan before tragedy strikes.
Just so excited to be part of the first in Georgia and really one of the first in the country to truly adopt it as the community standard and move forward with it.
In Augusta, Craig Allison, on your side.
So AU's demonstration on Thursday has been in planning for months. Emergency Manager John Ryan says he and Fire Chief Antonio Burden will be heading to D.C. next week to continue to present this plan and try to streamline it to more communities, even at the state level here in Georgia. So again, we'll play that full sound here that Craig did with the two gentlemen you heard from in the package, and that'll take us pretty much right up to midday. So appreciate you tuning in this morning. Of course, download the streaming app, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That'll keep you up to date on everything. And then if you want to tune over to the TV side of things at midday, Tim and I will have all the latest for you, news and weather style. So, yeah. All right, that's it for News 12 Now this morning. See you back here tomorrow for Thursday's top headlines.
Okay.
But if you could real quick just say your name so I get the pronunciation right, spell it out, and then your official title.
Sure. John Ryan, Johnryan, Emergency Manager at Augusta University.
Alrighty, so we've just now consented this active shooter plan that gets the whole community involved. And I heard you go on some talking points last week presenting before commissioners about this. I just want to get your firsthand words on what this plan does for the community.
So it's a huge day. And I thank the commissioners, thank the mayor, thank the clerk, everybody involved, and thank our partners that have gotten us to this point. And I don't know how many people realize what a big day it is. So the NFPA 3000 active shooter hostile event consensus standard is the framework with which the city of Augusta will move forward to prepare for active shooter hostile event situations. And it just can't be overstated how important it is for everybody in the whole community to be on one sheet of music, if you will, and have one standard to operate off of, so that we are all collectively moving forward. The collaboration that yields, the manifestation of the adoption of the standard really is the hashtag Strong Augusta initiative. So the fuel, if you will, is the standard, but the way that it comes to life in the community of Augusta and the surrounding areas is through hashtag Strong Augusta. And so that's really in the ensuing months, you'll see more and more of that where agencies, law enforcement agencies, fire agencies, EMS, the private sector, the academia, healthcare, everybody working together using NFPA 3000 to bring hashtag Strong Augusta to life.
I gotcha, and you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but the stems of support from the sheriff's office, from the fire department, all onto this plan. I'm just curious, because I haven't seen the plan itself, what does this look like in our community for addressing active shooter situations?
So hopefully what it looks like is a whole lot of preparedness that never shifts to response. But in the event that we ever have to shift to response and respond to an active shooter or purposeful active hostile event, what it looks like on the scene of a response is agencies that have trained in accord with the same standard, so that when agencies respond together, they can interact with one another and have an interoperability that leads to citizen safety and responder safety and community safety. So if everybody's operating off a different standard, while all of the different standards have good intention, all of the good intentions in the world don't lead to all of those things on scene of a hostile event. That interoperability and that the quick transition from response to recovery. And so a consensus standard that's been authored by 60 subject matter experts from across disciplines and across the country is the right way to go. It's one standard for everyone from all of those sectors of the community that I mentioned, for everybody to go to their chapter and say, okay, what are the competencies that we in the healthcare sector should be trying to be expert at? What are the competencies that we in the law enforcement sector should be trying to be expert at? And that chapter where law enforcement is, all of the law enforcement agencies in the area are in the same chapter, right? They're all training to the same competencies. The fire and EMS chapter, all of the fire and EMS responders in the area trained to the same standard, trained to the same competencies. And when they all get together on scene, it obviously will lead to a safer, more effective outcome.
And this was something that was presented last week before commissioners, but our community has been hit by something this past weekend that came out of nowhere that is very new, so I understand if it's a bit of a hard subject, but what could this plan do for active shooter situations like the one where you had on Saturday where 6, 7 people.
So I probably am not the best person to comment on what happened on Saturday because I wasn't there, and I'm sure that it's still an ongoing investigation. As I understand it, I don't believe it was an active shooter scene. It was violence that involved guns, but that's not necessarily the same as active shooter. There's a lot of different type of events that the standard will help the community be prepared for. And that what happened on Saturday is certainly one of them. But for me to comment any further on Saturday would be inappropriate.
Understandable. Talking on the precedents, because you also emphasized that last week as well. It's, I believe, fully statewide use in Massachusetts, as you said, on the way for Virginia. But what kind of precedents would this be setting for Augusta in terms of the state of Georgia? So
I think it's always nice to be first if you're bringing the right stuff, right? And so the first thing is this the right thing to do? And that's been vetted through our experts in our collaborative effort. And so being first in the state is important because it allows us an opportunity to lead the way. Chief Burton and I are going to be presenting in Washington, D.C. next week alongside the fire commissioner from the state of Massachusetts. And we'll be presenting on the two diverse vantage points with which NFPA 3000 is being used to keep community members safe. In Massachusetts, it's being used from the adoption at the state level and filtering down through communities across the state. In Georgia now, it's now been adopted by Augusta, Richmond County, and what we'll be doing is utilizing it to make a safe community here, as well as mentoring and working with other communities around the state to help them to understand why this is the framework with which to use. And so we'll be moving up to the state level.
See, but with up to the state level, but at the same time, we will be setting precedents.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no one else in Georgia that has done this. Exactly.
Okay, wow. That's insane. You've given lots of clarity on the plan itself, or at least just kind of surrounding pinpoints of how it works together in community. Is there anything else you'd like to emphasize about how big this is and the upcoming demonstration, I believe, that's set for this Thursday?
Yeah, I just would like again to reiterate thanks to the commission, thanks to the mayor, thanks to the clerk, thanks to everyone, thanks to the partners that have been involved with #StrongAugusta to this point, right? The local FBI, Richmond County Sheriff's Office, the Richmond County Marshal's Office, the Fire Department, Augusta University, the health care centers around town, Doctors Hospital, Piedmont Hospital, AUMC. Everyone has been very forthcoming in their desire to be collaborative and to recognize that this is a challenge that the whole community faces, so we need to come together as a community to try and find solutions for it. So that's the only thing I would say is thank you to everyone that's been involved to this point, and really looking forward to further collaboration.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We're on it. You can just look at me, but real quick, if you could just say your name so I get the pronunciation right, spell it out, and then your official title.
Okay, it's Brian Osden, BrianOzdden, Supervisory Senior Resident Agent, SSRA, FBI Augusta, Georgia Resident Agency.
Alrighty, so we've heard a lot of pinpoints zoomed over there from the AU perspective and just how this binds the community together. I'm just curious from your perspective with your department, what this plan looks like for Augusta.
This is an amazing effort, and I think John, he didn't understate the amount of work it's taken to get to this point, and how thankful we are for the commission and the mayor to adopt it as the standard. We started looking at this as a community of first responders and healthcare back in 2000, really 2019, and then 2020, COVID kind of slowed it down, but we never lost the momentum, we never lost the desire to keep pushing forward because it's so important. And like John mentioned, it's preparation, it's response, and then it's recovery. We hope we never have to use any of them but the preparation. We don't ever want to have to do response or recovery. But in the event that we did, we have a framework now through the NFPA 3000 that we can go to, a guidebook that tells everybody what they're doing, how they're doing it. But it gives us also, the good thing about the standard is it still gives us the ability to modify it. If there's something specific to this community, to these agencies, we can modify the standard to fit our needs. And that's why it's such an important standard. Like again, John mentioned, it's numerous agencies, federal, state, local government agencies came together and they published this standard to give communities like Augusta a framework to use, and I'm just so excited to be part of the first in Georgia and really one of the first in the country to truly adopt it as the community standard and move forward with it throughout.
I'm sorry if I misheard, but did you say something along the lines of FBI or?
Yes, I'm with the FBI.
Gotcha. So I'm just curious on that, federal input from Augusta, like how this looks from y'all's perspective.
So, again, the NFPA 3000 was a collaborative issue, a document, and it included Department of Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service, all the agencies, if you will, came together. They looked at historical active shooter hostile events, and they came up with a plan, but to prepare, a plan to respond, and a plan to recover from. And that's what this standard or document attempts to put together. And I think it does a very good job of providing a framework that then at the community level, we can then implement so that we can hopefully be ready in the event that hopefully none of this ever happens. But if it does, we've got a plan. We've worked together, and it's not just the law enforcement, the first responders, and the hospitals. It's the community. And one thing John didn't mention is part of this Strong Augusta campaign is that we're going out. We're talking to companies like ADP, some of the industrial companies that we have in Augusta, the military bases, and we're doing active shooter training for civilians. So giving civilians knowledge on what they can do if they're involved in something like that, and also a couple other. Training events that we're hosting. Stop the Bleed, that's a kind of a if you're in an event and you see somebody, how you can help them. And then the third one is the power of hello, and that's just the ability for civilians to see something on the street, see somebody that may not be acting quite right, say something to law enforcement, or even just go lend a hand, say hello to that person, acknowledge that person. It might change their whole outlook on life, and you might actually be able to prevent an active shooter or hostile event. So this NFPA 3000, this Strong Augusta initiative, it just kind of encompasses everything to do with the active shooter response and how we can get better at it.
I gotcha. And I'm sorry if I didn't ask John earlier, but we've got a demonstration on Thursday. I'm just curious about the policy itself. Taking hold in Augusta, how soon we see this kind of like locked in for our regular system?
So it's adopted now, and all the major, the sheriff's department and the fire department, the two largest in the marshal's department, they're all on board. This event on Thursday is really the culmination of months and months of work. It's going to be a very intricate exercise where we're kind of replaying what could be an event that happens in the area, and we're going to train together. We're going to test our systems, our response systems, our 911 systems, our hospital systems, our federal agencies' responses. All of that's going to be tested as part of this exercise on Thursday. But Thursday's not the end of it. Then we go on to doing some of those community outreach programs I talked about, the civilian response to active shooter, the Stop the Bleed, the Power of Hello. So this is a continuing effort, and it doesn't stop in 2023. It continues in 24 and 25. We just keep getting better at it. So the framework is there. Now it's up to us to really acknowledge it, learn it, and become better at it. And hopefully that's the preparation stage, and we never have to get to the other two, but we're ready if something does happen.
You've been great giving me context on this plan, because I've only just been cracking the surface with it last week, and then just talking with y'all today has just brought kind of the precedence of it to me. Is there anything else you'd just like to add about how important this plan is coming to Augusta?
I'm just really excited about it. I think maybe you can tell that in the way John and I both kind of, it's the culmination of such great partnerships in this area. People don't realize that Augusta's special. It's a special place to work. The law enforcement, the first responders, the fire departments, the hospitals. It's small enough to where everybody knows each other and can work together, but it's large enough that this stuff really matters. It's important that we do this training, and I'm just excited that as a collaborative group, we really have an opportunity to make this community better, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.